Alright, this is me trying out the audio blog section of this website. Yeah, Michael Hay here. If you don't like the sound of my voice, too freaking bad. Or, I guess, no, I'll take that back. I'm trying to be professional. If you don't like the sound of my voice, then you can refrain from listening to me. I'm not exactly a technological wizard, obviously. Um, so whatever we get is what we're going to get with this. So why do I want to include an audio version of my blog? I don't know, it seems to me people these days just need that kind of component because, well, I don't know if literacy rates are down. I don't know if you know, not all knowing and all powerful. I wouldn't say that, but it seems to me people read in shorter segments. So by adding this audio, hopefully I can get more people interested in buying my book because, quite frankly, I need to eat. Alright, so what can I say about my book for an opening thingamabob? Um, I guess I can probably cut that later. So, what I'm asked most about The Guardian, besides when is the sequel coming out, and honestly to that, I'm trying to have a manuscript done for May 1st. I'm even in a race with a friend of mine. I've got 18,000 words for a rough draft, which isn't bad considering The Guardian was only 65,000 words final, and the first draft of that was 25,000, so I've almost got that. But it's a substantially larger book, including more characters, and it's not in the whole diary format. It's, got legitimate chapters that aren't in Roman numerals. So where was I? Oh, right. The thing that people ask me about The Guardian the most, obviously, is where does your inspiration for James, like, how did you create the character James? And of course, me being me, my answer is usually, oh, my inspiration was me because I'm just freaking awesome. And of course, the problem that I run into with that is most people don't get my sense of humor. Like when I say I'm well awesome, like who's the coolest person you know? Well, me. Like that's my humor. Like I don't actually think that. It's like a false bravado, or yeah, I think that's how you say that word. Anyway, the inspiration of James literally came from me. It came from myself. It was, well, I was 10 years old, and I was always watching movies and whatnot far, and reading books far ahead of my expected age. Like, I don't know, I think I finished, like, The Lord of the Rings and Of Mice and Men in the same year, and I was probably only in the fifth grade. And I think I actually got it, too, which made a bit of a difference. So, yeah, unlike James, I wasn't that failing alcoholic student. My grades were actually really, really good. I got like on the honor roll each year when I was in high school. It just came to me naturally. Well, I'm really good at writing, and I excelled well under that old system of like where the teacher would just stand up and lecture. Like I could remember that. So with a little bit of luck and a little bit of daring, I had over an 80 average overall. But yeah, back to James. It was so yeah. I was 10 years old, which was when I started my first draft, which was pretty ambitious at the time. I had the thought, it's like, because I've seen all these movies about vampires or immortals or, people that lived well beyond their age and time. Even Bicentennial Man kind of in that. It was, what would I do with immortality? Because I don't, like, it's in so many series that immortals just become bored with existence and, like, off themselves or let somebody kill themselves or, oh, there was a really, really, really great movie. I think it was in 1985. Long story short, it's called The Dungeon Master or something, and I've been searching for a copy of it for like I don't know half my adult life. If you ever get a chance to find that, it's actually really really interesting if you can get past all the corniness. And it was this guy. Well, I don't know if I'm in copyright infringement. I can tell you kind of about this. Anyway, this isn't a spoiler alert or anything. This guy has this crazy computer that he built, and it like he's got like this link to it on his wrist, so he's really really smart, and he can use his computer to like even change the traffic lights while he's on a jog, so he doesn't have to wait at a red light. And he gets sucked out of time and space by something like some sort of demon thing. It's the equivalent of the devil is the definition they come up with, and the devil's bored with its life, so it pulls mortals out of time and space and runs them against like a gauntlet, like a series of challenges for them to defeat. So that's what he does with his immortality. Yeah, that's what the devil did with his immortality in that movie. Anyway, so yeah, what would you do with existence? I mean, like, if you run rampant through the streets, or watch all the movies that you meant to watch, or travel the world, like, you can only see the pyramids in Egypt so many times, which I haven't, but I mean, maybe you could. I don't know about you, but for me, I think I'd get bored eventually. I mean, 300 years, 1,000 years. What are you going to do the rest of your life? Like, after a while, everything kind of seems to repeat itself. And well, I think highly of myself. So, well, that's not quite true. I know the contents of my own mind. I spend many many hours in deep reflection. Philosophy is a huge part of my life. So I know that I need like a routine. I need like a goal. I used to play, well, I still do. I play video games, like something like one of the Elder Scrolls, for example. It's all great and fine, and you can pump hundreds of hours into this game, but I always got mad because it ended. And I just wanted it to keep going. Even when reading series or watching movie series, you never want the story to end. And for me, I recognize that that was me wanting to have something to do for a lot of it. I need to have something to do. I'm not one of those people that likes to sit idle, because if I do, I really get stuck in a rut really fast. So like I like the routine of like getting up in the morning and making a really awesome breakfast, and maybe doing like some cardio, or having a set segment of time to sit down and write. But more than that routine is I need to know why I'm doing it. Like the cardio would be for, well, and the breakfast too, is I'm trying to live forever. Probably not going to happen. But, that is my goal. That is something I'm working on. So that's why I do this routine. I sit down and write because I have this story to tell. Or I get up early in the morning. Or I even bother to drag myself to school because somebody needs a ride. So I live more for that person to take that ride to school than I would go for myself, in some sense. And if you're the person who gets that ride, you know who you are. I won't mention any names, but you know who you are. So yeah, what I asked myself is what would I do with immortality? Like, I'm not like a demigod, or I don't have like superpowers. Like, say, if I became a vampire, or I was born immortal and I had to have some crazy epic adventure of life, and then had to face a bunch of immortals in a fight to the death, and I was trying not to lose my head. What would I do? Well, I guess the Highlander reference doesn't really count because he had something to do. He had to stay alive from all these other immortals, and he knew one day he was going to end up fighting them. But, okay, besides that, what would I do with immortality? And, well, the answer wasn't readily evident to me at the time. I mean, I was the youngest in my family, and none of my cousins are really that much younger than me. I was born young into an old family, is what I'm getting at. And, I don't know, I have something like 18 first cousins, if you figure it all out, which is fairly substantial for a family these days. I mean, I have a first generation Dutch friend who has like, I don't know, something like 80 first cousins. Or, I mean, obviously there are bigger families, but I mean, in general, it tends to be a big family. So that was always kind of like a huge part of my life, is like family ties. I mean, I can trace, if my information is correct, I was chasing the census records, and like I can trace my dad's family in in the county next to ours. But like I'm talking 1830-ish, they arrived here in this land. So it's like 5 or 6 generations, and we hadn't moved more than 100 miles. And my mom's family is I haven't done the thing on that, but apparently my aunt did, and like I'm like 7 generations Canadian on that side. So basically, to say is both my families have been in Canada, more specifically Southern Ontario ish area for, before Canada was Canada, like officially as the Dominion. So that always really really just kind of is in my psyche, is I'm part of this network. People even say how eerie it is how like my family tends to get along, and like I never really overly fought with my brothers. I'm the youngest of 4 siblings, all brothers, and yeah, it's kind of eerie now that I'm can look on it from the outside with others' eyes, that like we never, I mean, we always had our disagreements, but everybody does. But it's like compared to other people around us, like I've had people comment on how eerie we were. Yeah, so family was always a huge part of my life, and I kind of got thinking, like, well, what's the point of being bored with existence? Why don't you do something useful? Which, was also kind of instilled in my brain from a very, very young age, because I was home taught until, well, I completed grade 2, all the way to grade 2 in homeschool, and my mother was my teacher. So I didn't really, and it was a small town anyway, so even if I got out, it wasn't like there was a huge social aspect. So, it's family driven. We lived on a farm, so it was kind of like I was accustomed to hard work, or maybe not hard work being so young, but, constant work. Like, I remember growing our own food, and, we kept cattle and pigs and chickens and stuff. Like, we live not solely off the land, but it was a different kind of existence than you run into today. Yeah, so family and hard work always kind of was, well, it's part of me. Like it's there. I can't really do anything about it. I suppose I could if I really wanted to, but I have no desire. So from that, what would you do with an existence? Is like, well, I'm just gonna do what I'm good at and what I find meaning in, and that's looking after family. So click right there, that was the starting idea of The Guardian. And of course, I was 10 and, a lot older in many ways, so I was trying to figure out romance even at that age. And The Guardian obviously doesn't come even close to explaining anything like that, but it's kind of like how a 10-year-old would view love, for lack of a better, or perhaps not better, but more elegant way of putting it. Um, so yeah, this audio blog is really just going to be me rambling on a lot, a whole lot. So yeah, I based James's purpose anyway was pretty much based off my life, me answering the question, what the heck would I do with eternity? Because yeah, if you don't do anything, if you don't have a purpose, if you don't have a routine, if you don't get up every morning, if nothing to look forward to in the world, and no purpose to keep striving on, I think you will hit that point where all of a sudden existence is just unbearable. And to be totally honest, I don't think you have to be immortal for that to happen. In many ways, too, though, what James does and how he acts and how he thinks, that's pretty much just my thought process. And I did write well, okay, I wrote a 4-page draft when I was 10 years old, and I ripped it up because I knew I sounded like a 10-year-old, and I was really mad. Yeah, and then when I was 16, I was, well, newly in love for one, but, that whole 16 quest to find out who you truly are, I kind of decided then that I was ready to write it, and I wrote it in a matter of weeks sitting at the dining room table. That was like my obsession. That's all I did. So many of the characteristics of James, yeah, I just modeled off myself because I was 16, and well, if you look for inspiration, the easiest inspiration I found was me, and I knew that I acted and behaved a lot different than most people and had different views. Like, say, for example, I'll give the example of Risk. Most people, once they realize they're going to lose at Risk, they just give up. Versus, I will fight to the last man every time. Like, it's just, you just keep doing it. You work, you work, you work, you work. What was that? How did I used to say that? Work, work, work some more, work until you die, and then keep on working. So James never gives up, and I like to think I wouldn't either. I don't either. I'd rather fail a class than drop out of it because I want to see it to the end and give it everything I've got, even if what I've got to give isn't perfect and